Don't touch my son. Helena Whitmore's voice cracked across the pool deck so sharply that even the music seemed to stop. 20 feet away, a boy lay motionless beside the water, his wet hair plastered to his forehead, his lips losing color by the second. Guests in white resort robes crowded around him. A private physician knelt near his chest. 2 attendants fumbled with a first aid kit. Neither of them seemed able to open, and standing just outside the circle was Nathan Brooks. He wore a faded blue maintenance shirt with the resort logo stitched above one pocket. Chlorine had bleached the knees of his work pants. A plastic testing kit still hung from one hand. Helena stepped between him and the boy. "You cleaned the pool," she said, loud enough for every phone camera to catch it. "You are not putting your hands on my child." Nathan looked past her, not at the crowd, not at the doctor shouting for oxygen, not at the resort manager already searching for someone to blame. He watched the boy's chest. One rise, then nothing. In less than 3 minutes, the people surrounding Nathan would learn that the quiet man they had dismissed had spent years making decisions while lives balanced on seconds, and Helena Whitmore would hear a name she had not expected to hear again. But that morning, none of them knew any of that. At 5:42 a.m. Nathan was standing barefoot in a narrow kitchen, spreading peanut butter across 2 pieces of toast while his daughter argued with a stuffed turtle. "You can't wear the ribbon and the hat," Maya said. The turtle sat upright against the sugar jar. Its green fabric had faded around the face, and one stitched eye leaned slightly higher than the other. A yellow ribbon was tied around its shell. On its head rested a paper sailor hat Maya had folded from an old grocery receipt. Nathan slid a plate toward her. "What did Shelley say?" "She said fashion has no rules." "Shelley sounds expensive. She has standards." Maya climbed onto the chair, pulled the turtle into her lap, and took a bite of toast. She was 8 years old, small for her age, with neat braids and the serious eyebrows of someone who considered breakfast a meeting. Nathan poured coffee into a travel mug and checked the time above the stove. Their apartment was modest. 2 bedrooms, a narrow hall, a radiator that clicked through winter even after the landlord claimed it had been repaired. The refrigerator carried 3 school drawings, a grocery list, and a photograph of Maya's mother standing beneath a red umbrella. Nathan never moved that photograph. He had learned that some objects became part of the structure of a home. Remove them, and the whole place felt different. "You're coming to work with me today," he said. Maya stopped chewing. "Because Mrs. Parker is sick." Nathan nodded. "And because the resort said it was okay." Nathan lifted his mug. "I told Mr. Reeves I had no child care. He said you could sit in the staff lounge. That means he said yes. That means he did not say no." Maya considered that distinction, then tied Shelley's yellow ribbon tighter. Nathan had worked at Bellwether Ridge Resort for 11 months. His title was aquatic maintenance attendant, though most guests called him the pool guy. He checked chemical levels, cleaned filters, repaired pumps, hauled soaked towels, and arrived before sunrise, so wealthy families could step into clear blue water without ever seeing the labor that kept it that way. The job paid less than his old one. It required fewer questions. That was part of why he had taken it. Nathan and Maya were riding the service elevator beneath the resort's west wing. Maya held Shelley under one arm and a purple backpack under the other. Nathan carried his toolbox. The doors opened onto a corridor lined with laundry carts and supply shelves. Employees moved around them in pressed uniforms, preparing the building before its guests woke. Nathan signed Maya into the staff lounge, found her a chair near the window, and placed a juice box beside her backpack. "You stay here unless I come get you." "What if Shelley needs the bathroom?" "Shelley has survived 8 years without one." Maya leaned closer and lowered her voice. "She thinks you're being disrespectful." Nathan adjusted the turtle's paper hat. "Tell her to file a complaint." Maya smiled around the straw of her juice box. For a moment, Nathan stayed there, one hand resting on the back of her chair. Then a radio clipped to his belt crackled. "Nathan, Eastpool needs you. We've got a pressure drop before the Whitmore party." He pressed the button. On my way. The east pool overlooked a valley of dark pines and silver morning fog. By noon, it would be filled with guests attending a private birthday event hosted by Helena Whitmore, a board member whose family name appeared on one of the resort's newer buildings. Nathan entered the pump room and crouched beside the main filtration unit. He listened before touching anything. A thin metallic vibration ran beneath the motor's normal hum. He shut down the line, removed the panel, and found a warped impeller beginning to shear against its housing. Another hour of operation could have sent fragments through the return system. Nathan replaced it, cleaned the chamber, and restarted the pump. The pressure returned to normal. A young attendant named Claire stood in the doorway holding a clipboard. How did you know where to look? Nathan wiped his hands on a rag. The sound changed. I didn't hear anything. You weren't listening for it. Claire watched him study the pressure gauge for another 10 seconds, as if he expected the machine to reveal something else. Then Nathan's eyes shifted toward the emergency cabinet on the far wall. The seal was broken. He crossed the room, opened it, and checked the contents. Rescue mask, gloves, oxygen regulator, pediatric airway kit. His fingers paused over the smallest tube. Claire tilted her head. You know how to use all that. Nathan closed the cabinet. Everyone working near a pool should... Before she could ask another question, the service door opened. Helena Whitmore stepped inside without knocking. She wore cream-colored trousers, dark glasses, and a gold watch that flashed beneath the fluorescent light. Behind her stood a resort manager and a boy of about 9, thin and pale, dragging one finger along the wall as he waited. Helena looked at Nathan's wet boots, then at the open emergency cabinet. Is the pool ready? Nathan met her eyes. The filtration system is stable. I need 30 more minutes to complete the safety check. Her mouth tightened. My guests arrive in 20, then they'll wait 10 minutes. The resort manager stopped breathing for half a second. Helena lowered her sunglasses. People usually softened their voices around her. Nathan did not. She looked him over once, slowly, as though deciding how much attention a man in a maintenance shirt deserved. Then she smiled, without warmth. Make sure they don't. She turned and walked away. The boy followed. But just before reaching the door, he stopped and looked back at Nathan. One hand rested against the center of his chest, only for a second. Then Helena called his name, and he hurried after her. Nathan stood motionless beside the pump. The motor hummed steadily now, but something else in the room no longer did. Nathan finished the safety check at 8:17. The pool opened 3 minutes late. Helena noticed. She stood beneath a white canopy near the water, reviewing floral arrangements with an event planner who seemed afraid to breathe in the wrong direction. Around them, staff carried trays, adjusted umbrellas, and placed folded towels along the lounge chairs in perfectly even stacks. Nathan moved along the edge of the pool with a testing strip between 2 fingers. Chlorine stable, pH balanced, water temperature correct. He wrote the numbers on a laminated sheet, clipped it to the maintenance station, and turned toward the pump room. Pool guy. He stopped. Helena had not looked up from her tablet. There's a leaf near the steps. Nathan glanced across the water. One small maple leaf floated beside the shallow-end ladder. A skimmer pole rested 10 feet away. I'll take care of it, he said. Now would be ideal. The event planner lowered her eyes. Nathan crossed the deck, removed the leaf, and dropped it into a waste bin. Helena continued speaking as if he had already disappeared. Maya watched from behind the staff lounge window. Nathan caught her face in the glass. She lifted Shelley by one arm and made the turtle wave. He gave her a slight nod before returning to work. By 10 o'clock, the resort had transformed. Luxury SUVs rolled into the circular drive. Guests entered through the east terrace wearing linen, silk, and sunglasses large enough to hide entire conversations. Children raced toward the pool while parents handed phones, bags, and instructions to the nearest employee without checking whether that employee was responsible for any of them. The birthday boy arrived last. His name was Oliver Whitmore. Nathan had learned it from the gold letters hanging over the dessert table. Oliver turns 10. Oliver wore blue swim trunks and a white shirt buttoned almost to the collar. He stayed close to Helena, while the other children ran toward the water. "You're not getting in yet," Helena told him. "I feel fine." "You said that yesterday." "I'm fine now." Helena placed 2 fingers beneath his chin and studied his face. The gesture lasted only a moment. But Nathan saw the calculation inside it. Not tenderness exactly. Assessment. A woman checking whether a problem might embarrass her in public. Oliver pulled away and glanced toward the pool. Nathan looked down at the tray in his hands, but not before seeing the boy press his palm briefly against the center of his chest again. The same place, the same motion. Claire approached, carrying a stack of clean towels. "You saw that too?" she asked quietly. Nathan took the top half of the stack from her. "How long has he been doing it?" "I don't know. They checked in yesterday. One of the servers said he complained about feeling dizzy at dinner." "Did anyone call medical?" Claire gave a small shrug. "Mrs. Whitmore said he gets anxious." Nathan's jaw shifted once. Across the deck, Oliver laughed at something another child said. The sound came out normal. His color looked good. His breathing appeared easy. Still. Nathan kept watching, not obviously, never long enough for Helena to catch him. He watched the way Oliver climbed the pool steps instead of jumping from the side, the way he paused halfway down, the way his fingers tightened around the handrail before he entered the water. Most people would have seen hesitation. Nathan saw compensation. He set the towels down and walked to the emergency cabinet. The oxygen cylinder was full. The seal on the pediatric airway kit was intact. The automated external defibrillator showed a green status light. He checked the battery anyway. Claire stood beside him. "You already checked that this morning." "I'm checking it again." She studied his face. Nathan had become familiar with that look during his first month at Bellwether Ridge. People sensed there was more to him than he offered, and curiosity moved in quickly to fill the space. He never fed it. The resort believed he had worked in military logistics before moving back to the city. That was true. Technically, he had coordinated personnel, equipment, transport, and field response under conditions where mistakes did not lead to complaints. They led to folded flags. The rest of his history stayed inside a sealed personnel file. No one at Bellwether Ridge had bothered to read closely. Nathan preferred it that way. His old life had been full of fluorescent rooms, blood-dark gloves, and families staring at his face as if his next sentence could rearrange the universe. Now he tested water. Water behaved predictably. Water did not ask him to promise anything. "Nathan." "Mr. Reeves." The resort manager approached with the tight expression he used whenever a wealthy guest had discovered inconvenience. "Mrs. Whitmore wants the maintenance cart moved behind the service wall. It's beside the emergency access point. She says it looks industrial." "It is industrial." Reeves lowered his voice. "Move it." Nathan looked toward the pool. 30 children were in the water. The deck was crowded. The nearest service wall stood around the corner and behind 2 locked gates. That cart carries the rescue equipment. The lifeguard station has rescue equipment. The lifeguard is 19. The young lifeguard on duty looked over, heard his age mentioned, and quickly looked away. Reeves rubbed the bridge of his nose. "I am not asking you to redesign protocol. I am asking you to keep the party looking clean." Nathan held his gaze for a moment. Then he moved the cart, not behind the service wall. He placed it against a row of hedges where it remained within 10 seconds of the pool and disappeared from Helena's photographs. Reeves watched him do it. "You always need the last word." Nathan locked the cart brake. "No." Reeves waited. Nathan did not add anything. Near the water, a burst of laughter rose as a child pushed Oliver from behind. Oliver stumbled forward, caught himself at the edge, and turned sharply. For half a second, his face emptied. The laughter continued around him. He placed one hand on his knee and the other against his chest. Nathan was moving before he thought about it. He crossed half the deck, then stopped when Oliver straightened. Helena reached him first. "What happened?" "Nothing." "You're pale." I said, "I'm fine." She glanced around, aware of the guests watching. Then she lowered her voice. "Do not make a scene today." Oliver looked at the ground. Nathan's hands curled once at his sides. Maya had come out of the staff lounge with Shelley tucked beneath her arm. She stood near the doorway, watching Oliver return to the water. "Daddy," she said when Nathan approached. "Is that boy sick?" Nathan crouched in front of her. "What makes you ask?" "He keeps holding here." She pressed one hand against her own chest. Nathan looked toward Oliver. The boy was now sitting on the pool steps while the other children splashed around him. Maya studied her father's face. "You do that thing when you notice something." "What thing?" "You get quiet in your eyes." Nathan adjusted Shelley's paper hat, though it did not need adjusting. "Stay inside the lounge." "Is something going to happen?" He rose slowly. "I don't know." The answer made Maya hold the turtle closer. Nathan walked toward the lifeguard station and checked the emergency radio. Then he looked across the pool at Oliver Whitmore. This time, he did not look away. By early afternoon, Bellwether Ridge looked more like a private resort than a family pool. A jazz trio played beneath a shaded pavilion. Servers moved between loungers carrying silver trays filled with sparkling drinks and fruit. Children darted through inflatable obstacle courses while parents laughed behind oversized sunglasses, convinced nothing unpleasant could happen in a place this carefully designed. Nathan had learned long ago that emergencies preferred places where people felt safest. He was replacing a damaged skimmer basket when the lifeguard's whistle cut through the music. One sharp blast. Then another. Nathan looked up immediately. Not because of the whistle. Because every child in the water had stopped moving except one. Oliver floated near the deep-end lane divider, one hand pressing weakly against his chest. His face had gone strangely blank. He wasn't calling for help. He wasn't splashing. He simply wasn't staying afloat anymore. Nathan Clare shouted. He dropped the skimmer basket before it hit the ground. By the time he reached the pool's edge, the young lifeguard had already dived in. The rescue should have taken seconds. Instead, halfway to Oliver, the lifeguard hesitated. Too many children crowded between them. Parents were still trying to understand what they were seeing. Some thought it was part of a game. Others reached for their phones. Nathan's voice cut across the deck. Clear the water, everybody out now. The authority in his tone froze people for half a heartbeat before instinct finally took over. Children scrambled toward the steps. Parents shouted names. The lifeguard reached Oliver just as the boy slipped completely beneath the surface. Nathan was already running along the edge, matching their movement through the water. The lifeguard lifted Oliver with both arms and struggled toward the side. Nathan leaned down, grabbed the boy beneath his shoulders, and helped pull him onto the deck. Oliver coughed once, then nothing. His eyelids fluttered. His lips carried the faintest shade of blue. The crowd closed in immediately. Give him space, Nathan ordered. Some listened. Most didn't. Helena pushed through the circle, nearly knocking over a server. Oliver. She dropped to her knees beside him. Me baby. Oliver. Look at me. The resort physician arrived moments later, carrying a medical bag. Dr. Alan Pierce. Lot of 50s. Confident. Well-dressed. He knelt opposite Helena and immediately began examining the boy. Nathan stayed where he was, saying nothing. He watched. Oliver's breathing was shallow. Too shallow. His pulse looked irregular beneath the skin of his neck. Doctor. Pierce listened to the boy's chest for only a few seconds before speaking. Likely secondary drowning with panic response. Nathan's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. Secondary drowning. Too fast. Too certain. Pierce continued issuing instructions. Oxygen. A staff member hurried toward the emergency cart. Nathan noticed something no one else seemed to see. Oliver's fingers. The boy wasn't clutching at his throat. He wasn't gasping like someone deprived of air. His left hand kept drifting back toward the center of his chest, the exact place Nathan had seen him touch 3 separate times since morning. The physician placed an oxygen mask over Oliver's face. Pulse is weak, someone said. Blood pressure dropping. Helena looked from the doctor to Nathan. Only now did she seem to notice the maintenance worker standing close by. What are you doing here? Nathan answered calmly. Watching. We have a doctor. I can see that. Her expression hardened, then stepped back. Nathan didn't argue. He took one slow step backward, but his eyes never left Oliver. Claire arrived carrying the emergency cart. Nathan immediately noticed the oxygen tubing had been connected incorrectly. She reached for it. Nathan quietly corrected the connection before anyone else saw. Claire stared. You knew. Nathan simply nodded once. Doctor. Pierce began asking questions. Did he hit his head? No. Did he swallow water? I don't know. Helena answered. He just stopped. Nathan's gaze shifted briefly toward the pool. No impact, no struggle, no prolonged submersion. Something didn't fit. He replayed the morning in his mind. The hesitation on the steps, the repeated pressure against Oliver's chest, the dizziness, the pale face, the sudden collapse. Not random. A pattern. His attention snapped back as Oliver's body jerked once. A tiny movement, almost like a startle. Then his eyes rolled upward. The cardiac monitor from the portable emergency kit finally displayed a rhythm. Nathan looked at the screen. One glance. That was all he needed. His breathing slowed. Doctor. Pierce barely glanced at the monitor before continuing the oxygen treatment. Nathan looked longer. Much longer. The rhythm wasn't simply slow. It was wrong. Not the rhythm of a frightened child. Not the rhythm of someone who had swallowed pool water. Something electrical. Something deeper. A memory surfaced uninvited. A military field hospital. Rain hammering canvas. Monitors screaming through the night. A young soldier whose heart had drifted into chaos after what looked like a minor injury. Nathan pushed the memory back down. Not now. Not here. Around them. Guests whispered. Poor kid. I heard he has asthma. No. Someone said he almost drowned. Phones recorded from every angle. The birthday decorations fluttered above tables no one was looking at anymore. Mr. Reeves hurried across the deck. The ambulance is 7 minutes out. Nathan turned immediately. 7. Traffic accident on Highway 8. 7 minutes. He looked back at Oliver. The boy's breathing became even shallower. Too shallow. Claire leaned closer. He's getting worse. Doctor. Pierce increased the oxygen flow. Stay calm. He said confidently. We have him. Nathan watched the monitor again. Then Oliver. Then the monitor. The two stories did not match. His instincts, quiet all morning, now pressed harder than they had in years. Something was being missed. Something important. Helena reached for Oliver's hand with trembling fingers. Please. For the first time that day, the certainty had disappeared from her voice. Nathan took one careful step forward, not because he wanted to challenge the doctor, not because he wanted recognition, because every second that passed made the picture in front of him harder to ignore. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Not yet. He needed one more piece. One undeniable sign. Across the deck, Maya stood frozen beside the staff lounge door. Shelley clutched tightly against her chest. She wasn't watching the crowd. She was watching her father. She had never seen him look like this before. Perfectly still, as if every sound around him had faded away. As if he were listening to something no one else could hear. The ambulance was still 6 minutes away. To Nathan, it sounded much longer. Oliver's breathing had become irregular. Not fast, not slow, unpredictable. Dr. Pierce continued speaking in the calm, reassuring voice physicians often used around frightened families. He's getting oxygen. His airway is open. We'll stabilize him until EMS arrives. Nathan watched the monitor again. The numbers dipped, recovered, dropped again. Not a steady decline, an unstable rhythm. Claire noticed him staring. You don't agree, she whispered. Nathan didn't answer immediately. I don't have enough information. You think something else is wrong? I think we're missing something. Before Claire could ask another question, Oliver suddenly gasped. His entire body stiffened. The monitor gave a sharp warning tone. Everyone on the deck froze. Helena grabbed Dr. Pierce's sleeve. Do something. I'm trying. Nathan took another step forward. His voice remained quiet. Doctor. Pierce looked up, clearly irritated. Not now. When did the chest discomfort start? Helena answered before Pierce could. What? This morning. Nathan kept his eyes on Oliver. He held his chest several times. Helena frowned. How would you know that? I saw him. It was nothing. Nathan said nothing. Pierce adjusted the oxygen mask. Pool incidents can create chest discomfort. Nathan looked at the cardiac monitor. No. Pierce's head snapped toward him. No. Nathan spoke carefully. The monitor doesn't fit that diagnosis. Several guests turned toward him. One man laughed softly. The pool guy reads heart monitors now. A woman beside him smiled awkwardly. Helena stood. I think you've forgotten your place. Nathan met her eyes. My place is beside the emergency equipment. Exactly. Her voice carried across the entire pool deck. So stay beside your equipment. Silence settled over the crowd. Phones continued recording. Nathan remained completely still. I believe your son needs a different assessment. Helena stared at him as though he had spoken another language. You believe? She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. You scrub filters. Another pause. You vacuum pools? People shifted uncomfortably. No one interrupted her. And now you're questioning a physician with 30 years of experience. Nathan answered without raising his voice. I'm questioning the diagnosis. Doctor. Pierce stood. Mr. Nathan. Mr. Nathan. Unless you possess medical training, you haven't mentioned. I'd appreciate it if you allowed professionals to handle this. Nathan looked directly at him. I understand. Pierce nodded once. Good. Then Nathan quietly asked, would you mind telling me why his rhythm is deteriorating while his airway remains clear? Pierce hesitated, only for a fraction of a second. Nathan noticed. Claire noticed. The young lifeguard noticed. Most of the guests did not. Pierce recovered quickly. Stress responses vary. Nathan's eyes returned to Oliver. The answer wasn't convincing. Another warning tone echoed from the monitor. Longer this time. Oliver's fingers twitched weakly. His eyes remained closed. Helena stepped directly between Nathan and her son. I've been patient. She pointed toward the maintenance shed. Go back to cleaning. Nathan didn't move. I can't. You can't. I won't. Her expression hardened. Security. 2 uniformed resort security officers hurried across the deck. Mr. Reeves arrived behind them looking pale. Mrs. Whitmore. I want him removed. Reeves looked at Nathan, then at Oliver, then back at Helena. Maybe we should. I said remove him. The 2 guards approached cautiously. Neither looked eager. Nathan. The older guard began quietly. We don't want trouble. Nathan nodded. I know. He slowly stepped backward on his own. No resistance. No argument. No raised voice. He stopped beside the emergency cart. Close enough to watch. Far enough to satisfy Helena. The older guard remained beside him. After nearly a minute, he spoke under his breath. You really think they're treating the wrong thing? Nathan kept watching Oliver. I hope I'm wrong. The guard followed his gaze. You don't sound like someone guessing. Nathan didn't answer. Across the deck, Maya had tears in her eyes. She hugged Shelley so tightly that the turtle's paper sailor hat folded flat. Claire knelt beside her. Sweetheart. My daddy wants to help. I know. Why won't they let him? Claire looked toward Nathan. For the first time all day, she found herself asking the same question, back near the patient. Doctor. Pierce prepared another medication. Nathan watched every movement. Dose. Syringe. Injection site. Timing. Then something happened that made every instinct inside him tighten at once. Oliver's heart rhythm changed. Not gradually. Abruptly. The monitor erupted into rapid alarms. Pierce looked at the screen. His confidence vanished. What? Another alarm. Louder. Oliver's pulse dropped again. The oxygen mask fogged less with each breath. Claire instinctively looked toward Nathan. So did the lifeguard. Even one of the security guards turned. Nathan had not moved. His face remained calm. But inside, the decision he had been resisting all afternoon had finally made itself. He could stay silent, or he could watch a little boy lose the time that might never come back. Nathan took one slow breath. Then he stepped away from the security guards and started walking toward Oliver again. Nathan had taken only 3 steps before Helena blocked his path again. Her voice was no longer polished. It was sharp, desperate. I told you to stay away from my son. Nathan stopped. He stood just beyond arm's reach. His eyes fixed on Oliver instead of Helena. His condition is changing. The doctor is treating him. I know. Then why are you still here? Nathan answered with the same calm that had carried him through every insult that afternoon. Because time matters. Helena shook her head. No. What matters is that you stop pretending you belong in this situation. The words hung over the silent pool deck. Dozens of guests stood frozen. No one knew whether to leave or stay. Phones were still recording. Somebody whispered, somebody should get him out of here. Another voice answered, He's only making things worse. Nathan heard neither. His attention never left Oliver. The monitor sounded again. A slower rhythm. Then another warning. Dr. Pierce frowned at the display. He adjusted the oxygen mask once more. Still no improvement. Nurse. Prepare another dose. Claire blinked. There isn't a nurse here. Pierce caught himself. Then hand me the medication. His hands moved faster now. Not because he had found the answer, because he was running out of them. Nathan spoke quietly. Doctor. Pierce didn't look up. If this is another opinion, it isn't. That finally made Pierce pause. Nathan continued. Has anyone asked whether he complained of chest pain before entering the pool? Helena answered immediately. He was tired this morning. Nathan looked at her. Did he say his chest hurt? She hesitated. Only briefly. He mentioned pressure. When? During breakfast. And yesterday. Helena's eyes widened slightly. How do you know about yesterday? You said he was anxious. She looked away. He said it felt tight after dinner. Nathan felt the last missing piece slide into place. His expression didn't change. Inside. Everything did. He turned toward Dr. Pierce. You need to reconsider your diagnosis. Pierce's jaw tightened. You are crossing a line. Nathan held his gaze. I believe the line was crossed several minutes ago. The surrounding guests exchanged uneasy glances. Claire noticed the physician hesitate again. This time it lasted longer. Mr. Reeves stepped between them. Everyone. Please stay calm. Helena rounded on him. Why is he still standing here? Reeves swallowed. You are the manager. Yes. Ma'am. Then manage. Before Reeves could respond, a small voice broke through the crowd. Daddy. Nathan turned instantly. Maya had slipped out from behind Claire. Shelley was tucked tightly beneath one arm as she hurried across the deck. Nathan met her halfway. He knelt immediately. You were supposed to stay inside. I know. Her voice trembled. But they're yelling at you. Nathan brushed a damp braid away from her face. I'm okay. They're being mean. I know. You always help people. Nathan didn't answer. Maya looked over his shoulder at Oliver lying motionless on the concrete. Can't you help him too? The question landed harder than anything Helena had said all day. Nathan rested one hand gently on Maya's shoulder. I'm trying. Helena watched the exchange with visible impatience. This is unbelievable. She pointed toward Maya. Take your daughter and leave. Nathan slowly stood. My daughter isn't the problem. Your presence is. Maya instinctively reached for Nathan's hand. Shelley's paper sailor hat had fallen off somewhere between the staff lounge and the pool deck. The little turtle now looked strangely unfinished. Nathan noticed. He picked up the tiny folded paper from the ground, smoothed one corner with his thumb, and tucked it back onto Shelley's head. Maya managed the smallest smile. Then another alarm shattered the moment. Oliver's body jerked once. The cardiac monitor erupted into a continuous warning tone. Dr. Pierce stared at the screen. His confidence disappeared completely. No. He checked the leads, checked the oxygen, checked the pulse again. Nothing explained what he was seeing. Claire stepped closer. Doctor. Pierce whispered almost to himself. This shouldn't be happening. Nathan heard him. So did Helena. For the first time that afternoon, fear outweighed pride. She grabbed Pierce's arm. Fix it. I'm trying. No, you fix him. Pierce looked at the monitor again. His silence said more than his words could. Nathan took one slow step toward them. Neither Helena nor the security guard stopped him this time. They were all watching the physician, waiting, hoping. Pierce finally looked up. His face had lost its practiced certainty. He stopped. He didn't know what to do next. Nathan recognized that expression. He had seen it years ago in field hospitals, in emergency rooms, on the faces of good doctors who suddenly realized the case in front of them was not the one they thought they were treating. Nathan looked at Oliver, then at the monitor, then back to Dr. Pierce. When he spoke again, his voice remained steady. If I'm right. Everyone turned toward him. He doesn't need another medication. No one spoke. Nathan continued. He needs a different intervention. The entire pool deck seemed to stop breathing. Even Helena, who had spent the afternoon dismissing him, could not force herself to interrupt. far beyond the resort entrance. The faint sound of an ambulance siren finally echoed through the valley. It was getting closer. Nathan glanced toward the road, then back at Oliver. He silently calculated the distance, the traffic, the time left, and for the first time since the emergency began, he wasn't sure the ambulance would arrive soon enough. The ambulance siren faded again, somewhere beyond the hills. Traffic had swallowed it. No one on the pool deck said a word. They all stared at Dr. Pierce. He stared back at the monitor. The rhythm had become dangerously unstable. Oliver's pulse was slipping away. "I need another set of vitals," Pierce said. Though his voice lacked the certainty it had carried only minutes before, Claire checked the blood pressure cuff. "It's dropping." Again. She looked up. "It already is." Pierce swallowed. The silence that followed was louder than any alarm. Nathan stepped closer. No one stopped him. Not the security guards. Not Mr. Reeves. Not even Helena. He stopped beside the emergency cart. "Doctor." Pierce looked at him. For the first time, there was no irritation in his eyes, only uncertainty. "What do you think you're seeing?" Nathan answered carefully. "I don't know enough to name it." He glanced at Oliver. "But I know what it isn't." Pierce looked back at the monitor. "You think I've been treating the wrong condition?" "I think you've been treating the symptoms." The words landed heavily. Helena looked from one man to the other. "You two can debate later." Her voice cracked. "Just save my son." Nathan looked at her. For the first time all afternoon, he saw no pride, only a mother whose world had narrowed to one small body lying on warm concrete. He understood that look, years ago. He had worn it himself. His wife, Danielle, had spent 12 days in intensive care after a drunk driver crossed the center line. Nathan had stood outside her room every morning, listening to machines breathe for someone he loved. He remembered watching specialists move with absolute confidence, while he searched their faces for one honest answer. He remembered the day confidence disappeared. He remembered carrying Maya, only 4 years old, then out of the hospital, because she kept asking why mommy wouldn't wake up. He had promised himself something that afternoon. Never again would he speak, simply because speaking made him feel useful. If he ever intervened, he would be certain. Oliver's monitor chirped again. Nathan looked at it, then at the boy's color. The faint blue around his lips had deepened. His fingertips were growing pale. His breathing came farther apart. Nathan closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, his decision had already been made. He turned toward Claire. "Call the ambulance again. They're already coming." "Call anyway." Claire obeyed immediately. Nathan then looked at Mr. Reeves. "I need everyone except the medical team to step back." Reeves hesitated. Helena surprised everyone. "Do what he says." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Guests slowly retreated several steps. The circle widened. The cameras lowered. Nathan knelt beside Oliver for the first time. He still hadn't touched the boy. "Not yet, Doctor." Pierce watched every movement. "What are you doing?" Nathan spoke without looking up, observing. He counted each breath, measured the spacing, watched the movement beneath the ribs. Then he gently lifted one eyelid. The pupil reacted. "Good." His fingers rested lightly against Oliver's wrist, not searching for a pulse, feeling its rhythm. Irregular, very irregular. Nathan removed his hand. He looked at Pierce. "Has anyone asked about family history?" Helena blinked. "What? Heart disease?" "No." "Anyone die unexpectedly before 50? She stared at him. "My younger brother." The entire circle became still. He collapsed while jogging. Nathan nodded once. "How old?" 32. Pierce slowly turned toward Helena. "You never mentioned that." "No one asked." Nathan's eyes met Pierce's. Neither man spoke. They didn't need to. Both understood what that answer could mean. Claire returned. "The ambulance says another 6 minutes." Nathan looked toward the entrance. Too long. Much too long. Behind him, Maya stood quietly beside the hedge. She hugged Shelley against her chest. She wasn't crying anymore. She simply watched her father. She had seen him fix broken bicycles, broken pipes, broken toys. Never a person. Nathan noticed her standing there. Their eyes met across the pool deck. Maya gave the smallest nod, not because she understood medicine, because she trusted him. It was the same look she gave him every night when he turned off her bedroom light. The same silent belief that whatever happened next Dad would know what to do. Nathan drew a slow breath. He looked at Dr. Pierce. I need your permission. Pierce frowned. For what? I believe the next few minutes determine whether he reaches the hospital alive. Helena stepped forward. What does that mean? Nathan finally looked directly at her. It means I can no longer stand here and watch. The words settled over the pool deck like a weight. Pierce studied Nathan's face. There was no panic. No ego. No attempt to impress anyone. Only quiet certainty. What exactly are you asking? Pierce said. Nathan answered without hesitation. Permission to begin treatment. Helena stared at him. You said you weren't a doctor. Nathan remained silent. He had never said that. He had only never corrected anyone who assumed it. Pierce noticed. His eyes narrowed. Who are you? Nathan looked back at Oliver. The boy's heartbeat stumbled again. One beat. A pause. Another beat. There wasn't time for explanations. There will be time for introductions later. Nathan said softly, but if I'm right. He reached toward the unopened pediatric emergency kit. We don't have another minute to lose. No one answered. The alarms from the cardiac monitor did. A sharp, uneven sequence echoed across the pool deck. Doctor. Pierce looked at the screen. Then at Oliver's face. The boy's skin had taken on a gray tint that hadn't been there a minute earlier. The ambulance was still nowhere in sight. Pierce made his decision. What do you need? He asked. Nathan looked up. The AED. Claire had already reached for it. She placed the case beside Nathan without being asked. Nathan opened it with practiced hands. Not hurried. Not hesitant. Every movement was economical. The way repetition strips away anything unnecessary. Several guests exchanged confused glances. The pool guy knows the defibrillator. Nathan ignored them. He gently cut away the front of Oliver's wet swim shirt. Elena gasped. What are you doing? Nathan looked at her only long enough to answer, trying to give him the best chance possible. He exposed Oliver's chest. No bruising. No obvious trauma. He placed 2 fingers lightly against the boy's neck again. Still irregular. Still fading. Nathan turned to Claire. I need a dry towel. She handed him one immediately. He dried Oliver's chest carefully before opening the electrode package. Dr. Pierce watched every movement. Something about the precision bothered him. Not because it was wrong, because it looked familiar. Nathan placed the pads exactly where they belonged. Not once did he glance at the printed diagram. He already knew. The AED began analyzing. Everyone held their breath. The machine spoke, analyzing rhythm. Do not touch the patient. Nathan lifted both hands. No one touches him. Even Helena obeyed. The seconds stretched. Then the device answered. No shock advised. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Nathan wasn't surprised. He removed one hand from the boy's shoulder. As I thought, Pierce frowned. You expected that? Nathan nodded. If this were a simple cardiac arrest. Yes. Pierce stared at him. Then why use the AED? Because I needed confirmation. The physician said nothing. Nathan leaned closer to Oliver. His eyes followed the rise and fall of the boy's chest. Too shallow. He listened, not with a stethoscope, with his ear close enough to hear every breath. Then he looked toward Pierce. I need your stethoscope. Pierce handed it over without thinking. Only after Nathan placed it against Oliver's chest did the physician realize what he had just done. Nathan listened once, moved the diaphragm slightly, listened again. His expression sharpened. There it is, the sound he had been searching for. He removed the stethoscope and handed it back. Pierce searched his face. What did you hear? Nathan answered quietly. A rhythm that doesn't match drowning. What does it match? Nathan didn't reply. Instead, he turned to Helena. When your brother collapsed. She looked startled. Did anyone ever tell your family why? Her lips parted. They said it was an electrical problem with his heart. Nathan nodded almost imperceptibly. Pierce's eyes widened. Electrical. His own gaze snapped back to the monitor. Then to Oliver. The pieces began falling into place. Nathan spoke calmly. I believe he's had this condition for years. Helena shook her head. No. It may never have shown symptoms until today. Oliver suddenly drew a strained breath. Then another. His heartbeat stumbled again. Pierce finally understood. He looked at Nathan with a completely different expression. What specialty? Nathan didn't answer. Instead, he asked, Does this resort keep pediatric antiarrhythmic medication? Pierce blinked. No. I didn't think so. Claire looked between them. You two are talking like... She stopped herself. Nathan turned toward her. Claire. Yes. When EMS arrives, tell them to notify pediatric cardiology before they reach the hospital. She nodded immediately. No hesitation. No questions. Nathan continued monitoring Oliver. He adjusted the oxygen mask slightly, raised the boy's shoulders by a few inches, rechecked the pulse. Still weak, but no longer disappearing. Pierce watched every step. You've done this before. Nathan kept his eyes on Oliver. Many times. In emergency medicine, Nathan remained silent. Pierce looked at his hands. Strong hands. Scarred hands. Hands that never searched for equipment because they already knew where everything belonged. Then he noticed something else. A thin white scar disappearing beneath Nathan's sleeve. Old. Surgical. The kind often earned in military hospitals. Pierce's breathing slowed. You served. Nathan gave one small nod. Army. Another nod. Nothing more. Pierce studied him for another long second. Memory stirred somewhere in the back of his mind. A conference. A journal article. A photograph. A younger black physician standing beside a military evacuation helicopter. Impossibly. Before he could pursue the thought, the sound of sirens finally reached the resort entrance. This time they didn't fade. They grew louder. Paramedics rushed across the deck carrying advanced equipment. The lead medic dropped to one knee beside Nathan. What have we got? Nathan answered in crisp, organized sentences. 10-year-old male. Sudden collapse in pool. Brief submersion. Airway maintained. Oxygen administered. AED analysis completed. No shock advised. Progressive unstable rhythm with prior history suggesting inherited cardiac pathology. The medic froze. That wasn't how maintenance workers gave reports. He looked at Nathan, then at Dr. Pierce. Pierce simply said, "Listen to him." The medic did. Within seconds, the team prepared Oliver for transport. One paramedic paused before loading the stretcher. He looked back at Nathan. Nama. Nathan hesitated only briefly. Nathan Brooks. The paramedic's eyes narrowed. Something about the name tugged at his memory. He didn't have time to place it. Not yet. The ambulance doors slammed shut. As the vehicle pulled away with its lights flashing, the entire pool deck remained silent. Every eye followed it down the winding road. Then, almost as one, they turned back toward the quiet maintenance worker standing beside the abandoned emergency cart. For the first time that day, no one saw only the pool caretaker anymore. The ambulance disappeared around the first curve of the mountain road. For several long seconds, no one moved. The birthday decorations still fluttered in the afternoon breeze. Half-filled glasses sat untouched on linen-covered tables. Music continued playing through hidden speakers until someone quietly reached the sound system and switched it off. The silence that followed felt earned. Nathan closed the emergency kit, wiped a few drops of water from its lid with a towel, and returned every item to its proper place. He behaved as though the afternoon had simply required another task. Claire watched him in disbelief. You're packing everything away. Nathan zipped the bag. It's still resort property. She stared. Oliver almost died. I know. And you're worried about putting equipment back where it belongs. Nathan looked toward the road where the ambulance had vanished. The paramedics have him now. He spoke without celebration, without relief, only quiet hope. Helena stood a few yards away, her hands trembling around her phone. She had called the hospital 3 times in the last 4 minutes. No answer yet. For the first time, anyone at Bellwether Ridge could remember. Helena Whitmore looked like a woman who had completely run out of control. Mr. Reeves approached Nathan cautiously. He stopped. Words failed him. Nathan spared him the effort. Go check on your staff. Reeves blinked. What? They're frightened. Only then did the manager notice the young lifeguard sitting on the edge of a lounge chair, elbows on his knees, staring at the ground. Claire was crying quietly behind the first aid station. 2 servers stood frozen beside an untouched birthday cake. Nathan had seen this before. After emergencies, people often forgot the witnesses. He never did. Reeves slowly nodded and walked away. Claire followed him with her eyes before turning back to Nathan. How did you stay so calm? Nathan answered while fastening the emergency cabinet shut. Someone had to. Before she could ask another question, another vehicle entered the resort. Not an ambulance. A dark SUV bearing the logo of St. Andrew Regional Medical Center. A gray-haired physician stepped out before the vehicle had fully stopped. He wore scrubs beneath an open jacket and walked with the quick, direct stride of someone accustomed to being called only when something mattered. Dr. Samuel Bennett, Chief of Pediatric Cardiology. One of the paramedics hurried across the driveway to meet him. They exchanged only a few words. Then Bennett looked toward the pool, toward Nathan. He frowned. No. He walked faster. By the time he reached the pool deck, everyone had instinctively made room for him. Where is he? Bennett asked. Already transported. Pierce replied, They're bringing him to your unit. Bennett nodded once. Then his eyes settled fully on Nathan. For several seconds, he simply stared. Nathan recognized him immediately. Nearly 12 years had passed. Time had added gray hair and deeper lines around Bennett's eyes. But he remembered. Military conferences. Joint trauma research. Long nights arguing over impossible cases. Bennett took 2 slow steps forward. Nathan. Nathan gave a small nod. Hello. Sam. Claire looked from one man to the other. You know each other. Neither answered her. Bennett studied Nathan, as though confirming something he could hardly believe. I heard the paramedics report over the radio. He shook his head slowly. I kept thinking, it can't be him. Pierce stepped closer. You know, Mr. Brooks. Bennett looked at him, then almost laughed. Mr. Brooks. He turned back toward Nathan. When did you start letting people call you Mr.? Nathan offered the faintest smile. A while ago. Pierce felt the conversation slipping somewhere he didn't understand. Dr. Bennett. Bennett interrupted him gently. You're telling me no one here knows who he is. Silence. Claire looked at Nathan. Helena slowly lowered her phone. The security guards exchanged puzzled glances. No. Pierce admitted. We assumed. I imagine you did. Bennett faced the small crowd gathering around them. This man served as one of the Army's leading trauma physicians. Several people blinked. Bennett continued. He helped develop battlefield emergency protocols that are still taught today. Claire's mouth slowly fell open. Pierce stared at Nathan. I've read papers by Nathan Brooks. Nathan looked away. Bennett wasn't finished. He trained physicians who now run emergency departments across the country. A guest whispered. That's impossible. Another quietly replied. Then why would he be cleaning pools? Nathan answered before Bennett could. Because life changes. His voice remained calm. My daughter needed her father more than the operating room needed another surgeon. No one spoke. The explanation was too simple, too human. Helena finally found her voice. You're a doctor. Nathan looked at her. I was. Pierce shook his head. No. His tone carried sudden certainty. Once you're trained at that level, you don't stop being a doctor. Nathan didn't answer. His silence seemed to confirm the statement more than words could. Helena's shoulders sagged. She replayed the afternoon in her mind. You're the pool guy. Go back to cleaning. Know your place. Every sentence returned with unbearable clarity. She looked at Nathan as though seeing him for the first time. I kept you away from my son. Nathan didn't deny it. I did. And you still saved him. He tried. Her eyes filled. Why? The question was almost childlike. After everything she had said, why? Nathan looked toward the hills beyond the resort. When I was in uniform, he said quietly, I learned something very early. He paused. You never choose who deserves your best. A deep silence settled over the pool deck. Even the wind seemed quieter. Just then, Bennett's phone vibrated. He answered immediately. No one could hear the voice on the other end. They could only watch Bennett's expression change. Concern, concentration, then unmistakable relief. He lowered the phone slowly and looked at Nathan. They have a heartbeat. Helena covered her mouth. But Bennett continued. The emergency team confirmed exactly what you suspected. He looked directly at Pierce. It wasn't drowning. Pierce closed his eyes briefly. Bennett turned back toward Nathan. It was a previously undiagnosed inherited cardiac rhythm disorder. Claire drew in a sharp breath. Everything Nathan had quietly observed since morning, every warning, every question, every refusal to walk away, had been right. But Bennett wasn't finished. They're taking Oliver straight into the cath lab. He looked Nathan squarely in the eyes. The attending physician asked me one question. Nathan waited. Bennett smiled faintly. He wants to know if Dr. Nathan Brooks can come to the hospital. Around them, every face turned toward the quiet man in the faded maintenance uniform. No one saw a pool caretaker anymore. And for Helena Whitmore, the full weight of the afternoon had only just begun. Nathan arrived at St. Andrew Regional Medical Center 23 minutes later. He had driven himself, still wearing the faded maintenance shirt, still carrying chlorine stains on his boots. Nothing about him suggested he belonged in one of the country's leading cardiac centers. Yet the automatic doors opened before he reached them. A resident hurried across the lobby. Dr. Brooks. Nathan nodded. This way. The young physician didn't ask for identification. He didn't question the work clothes. He simply led Nathan through secured corridors at a pace that made nurses step aside. Helena entered the hospital less than a minute later. She stopped at the security desk. I'm Oliver Whitmore's mother. Before the receptionist could answer, she noticed Nathan disappearing through the staff entrance. Why is he going back there? The receptionist looked surprised. He's been requested by pediatric cardiology. Helena stood speechless. No one questioned him. No one stopped him. Doors that remained closed to almost everyone else opened automatically for the man she had spent the afternoon calling the pool guy. Outside operating room 3. Dr. Samuel Bennett met Nathan. The rhythm stabilized after medication. Bennett said, but the electrophysiology team wants another opinion before they proceed. Nathan slipped on a surgical cap. Show me the monitor. Within moments, he stood beside 3 cardiologists studying Oliver's scans. No introductions, no speeches, only medicine. Nathan studied the ECG, then the echocardiogram. Finally, he reviewed Oliver's family history. He pointed toward a subtle abnormality on the display. There. One physician leaned closer. We thought that was artifact. It isn't. Nathan traced the electrical pathway with one finger. His uncle's death makes sense now. The room became silent. The attending cardiologist looked back at the images. My God. Nathan continued calmly. If you ablate here, he indicated another point. You'll preserve normal conduction while eliminating the unstable pathway. The attending physician checked the imaging again, then slowly smiled. I don't believe we missed that. Nathan didn't answer. He understood exactly how easy it was to miss. Medicine rewarded experience. It also punished certainty. The physician looked around the room. Let's adjust the plan. The team moved immediately. No one questioned the change. An hour later, Helena sat alone outside the pediatric intensive care unit. She hadn't moved. The designer handbag beside her remained unopened. Her phone had rung dozens of times. Board members, business partners, reporters. She ignored every call. The only thing that mattered lay behind the double doors. Claire arrived carrying Maya by the hand. Mr. Reeves followed behind them. I thought. Claire began softly. You might want to know. Helena stood immediately. How is he? We don't know yet. Maya looked around the hallway. Where's Daddy? Claire smiled gently. Helping. Maya nodded as though that answered everything. Because to her, it did. Nearly 2 hours later, the operating room doors opened. The attending cardiologist stepped into the waiting area and removed his surgical cap. Mrs. Whitmore, Helena hurried forward. Your son is stable. She covered her face with both hands. The breath she released seemed to carry the weight of the entire day. The procedure went well. She nodded through tears. Will he recover? We expect an excellent recovery. He paused. There's someone you should thank. The physician stepped aside. Nathan emerged behind him, still wearing borrowed surgical scrubs. Still as quiet as ever, Helena crossed the distance between them slowly. No cameras, no audience, only truth. I was wrong. Nathan said nothing. I judged you before I knew your name. He remained silent. I kept you away from my son. Nathan nodded once. You did. Tears rolled freely down Helena's face. I'm sorry. The words came without defense, without excuse. Nathan looked through the ICU window where Oliver now slept peacefully beneath careful monitoring. He'll need follow-up care. I know. He'll also need less pressure. Helena looked confused. Nathan continued. He spent all morning trying to convince you he wasn't feeling well. Her shoulders dropped. She remembered every moment. Every time Oliver had touched his chest. Every time she had dismissed it as nerves. Every time she had told him not to make a scene. The realization hit harder than any public embarrassment ever could. I should have listened. Nathan's voice remained gentle. Then start now. The next morning, every major local news outlet carried the same story. Pool caretaker helps save resort executive's son after rare cardiac emergency. The headline changed by afternoon. Former Army trauma physician recognized after quiet heroism. Television stations replayed guest videos from the resort. Millions watched Helena ordering Nathan away from Oliver. Millions watched him step back without anger. Millions watched him return, only when the boy's life depended on it. Public opinion shifted with astonishing speed. Bellwether Ridge's board of directors announced an internal review before noon. By evening, the findings were complete. Helena's conduct toward both an employee and a medical emergency had violated multiple governance and workplace policies. She resigned from the board effective immediately. In a written statement released that night, she accepted full responsibility. No lawyers, no public relations spin. Only one sentence drew the nation's attention. The greatest mistake I made was believing a person's uniform told me everything about their worth. Nathan never gave a television interview. When reporters gathered outside his apartment, he politely declined. I hope your viewers spend more time learning CPR than learning my name. Then he closed the door. Inside, Maya sat at the kitchen table with Shelley wearing a freshly folded paper sailor hat. She looked up as Nathan walked in. Did the little boy get better? Nathan smiled. He did. Maya hugged Shelley. I knew you could help. Nathan knelt beside her. No. She frowned. I wasn't the only one. He thought of the paramedics. Dr. Pierce admitting uncertainty. Dr. Bennett arriving without hesitation. A team of specialists willing to change course when new evidence appeared. Oliver had survived because people finally chose to listen instead of defend their pride. Nathan rested a hand gently on Maya's shoulder. People save people. Outside the apartment, reporters still waited. Inside, the room remained peacefully quiet. And for Nathan Brooks, that was more than enough. 3 weeks later, the East Pool at Bellwether Ridge looked different. The water was just as clear. The white lounge chairs still faced the mountains. Guests still arrived carrying expensive sunglasses and expensive expectations. But beside every entrance now stood something that had never been there before. A clearly marked emergency station, automated external defibrillators, pediatric rescue equipment, large signs explaining CPR in simple steps. And every employee from housekeeping to restaurant staff had completed emergency response training. Nathan noticed all of it before anyone noticed him. He had returned to finish the final week of his notice. After Oliver's recovery, the resort had offered him a promotion. He politely declined. He had already decided it was time for a different chapter. Claire hurried across the deck with a broad smile. I've been looking for you. Nathan set down the water testing kit. Everything all right? She laughed. For once. Yes. She handed him an envelope. The board asked me to give you this personally. Nathan opened it. Inside was a letter thanking him for his action, along with a certified check large enough to change most people's lives. $100,000. Claire watched his face carefully. You deserve every penny. Nathan folded the letter back into the envelope. I appreciate the gesture. You don't sound excited. I'm grateful. She frowned. But, Nathan smiled softly, I won't be keeping it. That afternoon, Bellwether Ridge held a brief ceremony. No grand stage, no orchestra, only employees. A handful of guests. And several local reporters gathered beneath the same pavilion where panic had filled the air 3 weeks earlier. Mr. Reeves stepped to the microphone. I owe someone an apology. He looked directly at Nathan. I spent too much time worrying about appearances and not enough time listening to the people who knew their jobs. He paused. I won't make that mistake again. The audience applauded quietly. Then Helena Whitmore walked onto the platform. She wore a simple navy dress. No assistant. No photographers standing beside her. Only Oliver, now healthy enough to walk on his own. A small scar near his collarbone was the only visible reminder of what had happened. Oliver crossed the stage first. He stopped in front of Nathan. My mom says I should say, thank you. Nathan smiled. What do you want to say? Oliver thought for a moment. Thank you for not giving up. Nathan knelt so they were eye level. I'm glad you're feeling better. Oliver nodded. I get tired sometimes. You will for a while. But I can still swim later. Nathan chuckled. When your cardiologist says yes. Oliver grinned. Deal. Helena stepped forward. She faced the crowd before turning to Nathan. I apologized privately. She took a slow breath. I also wanted to apologize publicly. Every camera in the pavilion remained perfectly still. I believed education, wealth, and position made me qualified to judge people before speaking to them. She looked toward the resort staff gathered together. I was wrong. Her voice never wavered. I failed as a board member. She looked at Nathan. I almost failed as a mother. Silence settled over the audience. No one clapped. Some moments deserved something quieter. Helena extended the envelope containing the reward check. Our board hopes you'll accept this. Nathan looked at it, then gently pushed it back. I can't. You earned it. I didn't do what I did for money. Helena hesitated. Then, what would you accept? Nathan glanced toward the newly installed emergency station. I have one request. Everyone waited. Use the money to create emergency response scholarships for hospitality workers. He continued. Train lifeguards. Train housekeepers. Train cooks. Train every employee who might one day become the first person beside someone having the worst day of their life. The board members exchanged quick looks. One of them nodded immediately. Done. Nathan smiled. Then that's enough. Before leaving the resort for the final time, Nathan walked to the shallow end of the pool. The afternoon sun shimmered across the water. He remembered the panic, the shouting, the fear. Now all he heard was laughter from children enjoying an ordinary summer afternoon. That was exactly how it should be. Daddy. Maya came running across the deck. Shelley was tucked beneath one arm. This time the little turtle wore a brand new cloth sailor hat Claire had sewn by hand. I made Shelley a lifeguard. Maya announced proudly. Nathan examined the tiny red cross stitched onto the hat. I can see that. She says she's officially on duty. Nathan nodded solemnly. Then we're in very good hands. Maya slipped her hand into his. Are we going home? He looked back one last time. Claire waved from the equipment room. The young lifeguard raised a hand. Mister. Reeves nodded with quiet respect. Even Helena and Oliver stood together near the pavilion. Not as powerful people, but simply as a mother and her son. Nathan squeezed Maya's hand. Yeah, we're going home. They walked toward the parking lot without looking back again. Not because the place no longer mattered, because some chapters deserved to end exactly where they had taught their lesson. As they reached the truck, Maya looked up. Daddy. How did you know that little boy needed help? Nathan opened the passenger door for her. I listened. To what? He buckled her seatbelt before answering. To the things people weren't saying. Maya considered that for a long moment. Then she lifted Shelley so the turtle could look out the windshield. I think Shelley listens like that too. Nathan laughed. I think she does. The truck rolled away from Bellwether Ridge as the evening sun settled behind the mountains. Inside the cab sat a father, a daughter, and a stuffed turtle with a sailor's hat. Nothing about them looked extraordinary. And that was the point. Sometimes the strongest people in the world are the ones no one notices until the moment everyone needs them. If this story stayed with you, remember this. Never measure someone's worth by the uniform they wear. Kindness costs nothing. Respect costs even less. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is carrying the experience that can change someone's life. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you in the next story.